Welcome to Uncommon Real Estate, where it's all about finding creative solutions for real estate agents and investors. In exclusive mastermind conversations with some of the brightest minds in real estate, you'll learn how to earn an extra 6 figures a year. Don't follow the herd. Be uncommon. Here are your hosts, multi-millionaire real estate agent and investor, Chris Craddock and Jeff Safewright.
Hey friends, welcome here to another episode of your Uncommon Lunchbox with your host, Chris Craddock, myself, Jeff Safewright. Today, we are going to talk about some ROI. How do we get the best return on investment when we're selling our properties? Everybody wants to know that. Today, there's more competition as interest rates have gone up and everything else. So let's jump in and Chris, talk about how we can start getting our properties sold and what do we need to do? What do we not need to do?
Yes. All right. So I was just made aware, for whatever reason, I thought that we were launching this as video when we launch it on the podcast for everybody listening after the fact. Turns out that it is just audio on the podcast. So we're going to do just a walk and talk through a property, what you see, where the ROI is. So let's start with the most important thing. Now, this is not going to sell a house, but this will absolutely turn off a house. So how much time do we have? I mean, Jeff, this question that we all know the answer to. How much time do you have for a seller to say no to a property?
You mean how much time do you have for a buyer to say no to a property?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm having buyer-seller dyslexia. That's where we are in this market these days. Like everything's just all coming together. How long would you say for a buyer? You pull up to a house.
Very short time. Very short time. They know, they have a pretty good indication very quickly.
Right. So one of the things we've got to understand is oftentimes, if you are like I am, oftentimes you had buyers that would just say, it just doesn't feel right. Well, what are feelings? Feelings are just all of the data that we have brought into our mind that we sometimes just have this gut reaction, but the gut reaction is data that we have brought into our mind. And oftentimes, if we can't verbalize that data, then it's just a feeling, right? And so what needs to happen is us verbalize, well, why is that? Well, a perfect example of this, this just helped me understand buyers, and it helped me understand the process of getting a great ROI. It was all these little things that make the feeling. And so a guy that was a mentor to me for many years, I remember he was like pure logic, all logic. His wife was very much emotion, right? Like, I don't know if any of you guys have relationships like that. Sometimes it's the dude, sometimes it's the girl that's that. But like, oftentimes you'll see those opposites, right? And so what would happen was he would say, hey, I want to do this. And she was like, it doesn't feel right. And then he would do it. And then it would turn out really, really, really bad for him. So her gut, or people say women's intuition, her gut would tell her, no, this is a bad thing. And so after a while, he had a mentor of his say, why don't you go to her and say, hey, can you convert your feelings into logic for me? Tell me why, explain, and instead of just saying it doesn't feel right, but like explain why. And what he learned was there were a lot of things. So he told the story of when he wanted to get a pickup truck right after they got the first kid. And she was like, it just doesn't feel like that's what a dad should be driving, this pickup truck. It was a 2-seater pickup truck with a little middle seat. And he was like, well, why not? And she's like, as a dad, you just shouldn't. And she just said, it doesn't feel right. Well, he got the pickup truck, and then getting the car seat in the middle seat was like almost impossible. And he had to sell the truck right after the fact. And he was like, if she would have said to me, putting a car seat in the middle seat and it won't last long, all these, like, just logically, this is why, here's all the data. He's like, it would have made sense, but she was right. She just couldn't enunciate why she was right. And so I just went ahead and then got myself in trouble and then bought a truck that then I had to sell like 2 months later.
Yes.
So Now, Jeff, do you mind what are some of the data points that people are going to see when they walk up? Some that we can control and some we can't control. What are some of the data points you think of?
Well, I mean, just so we can put a name on it, correct me if I'm wrong, we're talking curb appeal here, right? So we're looking at, is the yard clean, right? Is the porch, assuming that there's a porch, is the porch clean? How does the door look? Honestly, like, how does the door handle or the doorknob look, right? Because that's one of the first things, because you're probably spending a minute, maybe 2 minutes staring at the doorknob as you're getting the key out of the lockbox or the sentry box, whatever you got there. You're putting it in. Does the key go in easy? Does it not go in easy? Like those things. Obviously, if we're talking about a newer home, a luxury home, etc., those aren't an issue. But you get into some older homes, I can't tell you how many times that when I was working with buyers that we would stand there for a good 5 to 10 minutes and have to call the agent. If someone is calling you to figure out how to get into the house, it's over, right? Just take it down off the market, fix the door, and retry, right? Windows, is the roof clean, right? Does it have stains? Like, what's happening with the roof? Some of the overhang, some of the fascia. Because again, these are things that while the agent is opening the door, that the buyers are looking at. So you don't have to, I mean, I don't want to step on your toes, but I don't think you got to get too fancy in the landscaping. I mean, yeah, if you want to put up some if you have it, flaunt it, right? But you don't have to go and get the fancy flowers and do all the fancy landscaping to create that appeal. More so just being clean and organized and manicured is where I would go.
Absolutely. Yeah. Clean and organized. I mean, here's one of the pieces for me. So we have our house we've been living in for years. The front door, the stain on the front door, because the sun during midday points right at our front door. And so we have to repaint that stain or restain that door every single year because the heat I mean, literally, it's one of those things where you put your hand on that door, it is going to fry. You could fry an egg on the door, right? And so I was looking at it and it wasn't terrible, but it was bad enough that I'm just like, yeah, let's just do it. We don't want to give that data point. So all of the things that doesn't make it look clean, where somebody walks in and thinks any sort of ick factor, you want to get rid of. And like Jeff said, don't spend a ton of money on it, but make sure that it doesn't have something where it can be instantly ruled out.
Yes. And here's the thing about painting a door. It's not expensive. Like,
right.
And if you don't have the money to pay a contractor, you can do that yourself fairly easily. Right. So there are things that are very important or a lot more important than other things, and they don't cost a lot of money and they don't take a lot of time. Right.
Absolutely. Although I fear with what Jeff just said, a lot of the hairy homeowners, a lot of your clients, just understand, if you're walking around and looking at their house and see a lot of half-done projects, it's probably better to leave it with the uck factor rather than have it look like it was done by a terrible.
That's true. The other thing, let me ask you this, because I've known way too many agents that would go over there and paint the door themselves. I don't know how many times I've called agents that are friends and I'm asking, like, what are you doing on a Saturday afternoon? They're like, oh, I'm over here at my new listing. I'm painting the door. I'm like, all right, that's why I hire contractors, but cool.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that absolutely, in my opinion, you can go above and beyond and do it yourself, but that is not what I see as a value add, right? Pay somebody $300, $500, $1,000 to go do that. And if you're going to offer to do it, pay that money and take those 4 hours and prospect, and you're going to make way more money than you will painting that door and saving that money for them, right? Like, don't do that. So, all right. So the next thing that we need to talk through is right when you walk in. Now, I understand that there's some like feng shui issues and other issues that people have with mirrors right when you walk in. But if you're in a row home, if you can look all the way back with where things are, that's where you're going to see a really, really good, people get a good feel for that. If not, oftentimes, like, you want to put a mirror right when they walk in, so it gives the illusion of a bigger open space. Now, I know that some of the feng shui and some of the other issues out there, people don't like that because they say that energy goes out the door or whatever. I get that, but I also feel like making it feel like an open space is it's a better option. So that would be my take there. Now, let's go to my favorite little hacks, right? So what I see as my favorite hacks are fixtures. So when you look at like the old 80s brass fixtures, now there is some brass that's like in now, right? Like I get that. But if you're talking like old 80s builders grade brass fixtures, it costs anywhere from like 200 to 400 bucks to replace all of them all throughout the house. Do the replacement. And if you're looking at a house that's not I would say under in the DMV area, it's like under 800, depending on your market, like where you get to that next level up, right? We're not talking luxury homes, right? That's like 2 million plus or 150 plus, but you're talking about a step up from entry level. And when you get to a step up from entry level, you're going to want to replace the hinges on the doors and the stops on the doors, all the other pieces. But below that, when you're talking entry level housing, you replace the hardware and you can actually just paint the hinges white, paint all the stuff white, and it works just fine, right? And I know some people that are contractors out there are just viscerally angry at me for saying that because they're like, no, you can't do that. But I'm telling you, if we're only talking ROI, if you're flipping a house and you're in an entry level housing, which entry level is much higher than it used to be now. But if you're in entry level housing, then what I would say is just paint all that white and then replace the door handles and then you're good to go.
Yeah. So not to push back and play too big a devil's advocate. I'll just share a personal story though that I had. We flipped the townhouse here a month or two ago, and pretty much the only thing we did just that. We didn't do the hardware because, we didn't do the hinges and the doorknobs because it's entry level. And I mean, everything for the most part, it looked good. It looked fine. And I was like, we did a lot of other things to it. I was like, let's just leave that. Ironically, probably 3/4 of the agents that we had look at the property, and we had about 20 people look at the property. They were all asking, are we gonna change those? And it was like because I shared your position, and that's the reason we went that direction. And it was funny that the feedback that we kept getting it wasn't really like we don't like it. It was this assumption that we just hadn't got to change the hinges and the doorknobs, right? So maybe when you're talking hardware, you're talking you should change the doorknobs, but that was one of the things that we didn't do. And it was some of the main feedback that we got back is that we should have done that.
Well, yeah. So I obviously was massively unclear. So yes, the doorknobs, that is what we do, right? Like 100% do the doorknobs because you're talking about $200 to $400 to do the whole house. Change it to a black or a polished bronze or a brushed nickel. Change those. What I was saying you can get away with is the hinges. That's a lot more expensive because you have to take the doors off, change the hinges, re-screw them in, and then get it back on. And so contractors actually charge you probably as much to change the hinges as they do for half the other hardware. You're going to double your cost by changing the hinges. So all of the door knobs, definitely replace that, and the latch plate, replace that because that's just an easy one. But the hinges are a pain in the butt, and they're like contractors just charge you a lot more for it. So that's why I would say the hinges you should just paint white, and then the rest of it, definitely don't paint the doorknobs white. The rest of it change to either a polished bronze, a brushed nickel, or a black.
The other one that's super simple, and I don't know what they're called. I know what they're called. I can't think of it right now. So I'm just going to call them the air vents, the covers that are on the floor. Super cheap. You don't need, like, those are literally, you just pull them out and put the other one in, right? Super easy to do. Get it done.
Yes. Okay. And actually, this was not on my list, but I forgot this is on my checklist. And I don't know why it wasn't on my list for today, was always, even if you're selling a house as is, clean out the register. The register is where the air vent goes in, where the air goes into for the HVAC. There is nothing that buyers find grosser than seeing massive like dust. And you know what dust is? It's just like skin particles, right? Or dirt and skin particles. It's nasty. Seeing that stuck to a register, it is disgusting. Buyers like, it's gross. So just clean the registers. But let me just tell you one thing that I did at our lake house, which Oh man, I should just hire people to do everything because I can sell, but I cannot, like, I just break things, right? So our register was directly above our smart thermostat. I took the register, I saw that it was just dusty, and I was like, you know what? I don't like to see that. So I just pulled it down. I rinsed it off. I washed it off. I thought it was dry, but because the register has those little lips on it, it was holding water in there. And so as I put it on and started just screwing it back in. It was like a 5-minute job. As it was kind of off kilter, all the water ran straight down into the smart register or the smart thermostat. And my 5-minute job ended up costing me like, what was it? Like $800 or something like that to get a new smart thermostat. So yeah. Oh, hairy homeowner job, right? There we go.
Nice.
All right. So back to it. Next, let's talk kitchen. Easiest ROI here. Easiest by far. Oh, also, well, we'll go back to we were talking fixtures. So going along with the fixtures, bronze fixtures, right? Lights, if you have the old bronze, like 1980s fixtures in there, $20. And you can get one of those globes at Home Depot or Lowe's that you just put in, boom, $20, and you are done. It's simple, it's easy. And it is the best return you're going to get on your investment, right? Get rid of those old 1980s lights and put in a $20 light, and it looks great.
Kitchen.
Okay, so first thing you're going to want to do is look at the style of cabinets you have, right? If you have the old like golden oak builder's grade cabinets, usually they're 36-inch cabinets, which means they're the shorter cabinets. What I would say is, if you're still in an entry-level property, you can make a kitchen look new by doing two things. One, you hire somebody to paint the cabinets, right? Paint them white, and then you just put hardware on the cabinets, like those pulleys on the cabinets. And then you throw in, you'd never want mismatching appliances, right? Like, even though appliances are very expensive now post-COVID, you want to have matching appliances, and preferably like a stainless or like a black stainless steel appliances. If you do that, have white cabinets. If you don't have granite is super cheap, but if you get granite on, you're also going to have to replace the sink with an undermount sink. And then you put hardware on there. You can do that for, depending on the kitchen, anywhere from $6,000 to $10,000. You can have a brand new looking kitchen. Now, obviously, once you get above entry level, those cabinets they're going to look through it and say, I don't want the 36-inch cabinets. I don't want these painted cabinets. And at that point, you start needing to ask other questions.
Depends on also where you're at, right? So if you're in like a gentrifying neighborhood, oftentimes they'll allow that to go a lot more. But like I said, when you get up into a luxury kind of community, when you get up in the higher prices, you absolutely are going to have to start looking in. And that's where the price starts to jump, when you have to install new cabinets and do everything. Like you said, the granite, all of that's fairly cheap. The other thing is that I found real successful: find a contractor that has access to used stainless steel appliances. Used stainless steel appliances, you can get them for about half the cost. And the reality is that most of them are new, but got dinged up during installation. So they had to send them back to the warehouse, and then they resell them at a very discounted rate. So that's another thing that I've done a lot of, is I have a contractor that can give me great prices on used stainless steel appliances.
Good. Yeah. I mean, that's probably worth the price of admission right there. I'm kicking myself over the tens of thousands of dollars I've spent in my rentals putting in stainless steel appliances. I should have done the scratch and dent stainless appliances. It would have made a lot more sense.
Yeah. It's amazing. You can buy this refrigerator for $3,000, or you can buy this one over here for $1,000. The difference is the ding in the on the side panel of the refrigerator. So definitely something, if you don't have a contractor that can do that for you, find one immediately. Huge ROI.
Yeah. Next, so bathrooms, same thing as kitchen. Update the pull handles, update the lighting. It's just so cheap to do that. And honestly, you can also, I mean, the tile is just, I mean, it's not that expensive to do a bathroom. Now, here's the thing. If you're in real estate, you just have to have access to a contractor that is priced well, right? Usually with a contractor, you can either get a well-priced one, somebody that's not flaky, and somebody that does good work. And you usually get to pick two of those three. You don't get all three of them, but every once in a while you find that triple Lindy where you find that contractor that can be trusted. That's just great. So I would say that is really important for you to look for right now, is that in a contractor. And if you don't have somebody that is like that, you need to go start testing new contractors, ask around until you find somebody, because when you start referring contractors out and their pricing is top of the line pricing, but your clients they're not happy with you. When you start referring contractors out and they're flaky, your clients aren't happy with you. So you just got to work on those things.
Yeah, man, we should do a whole episode on contractors. Actually, there's so much that can be said. When you have a good contractor, you're golden, right? There's so many different layers to that'll stop. Find a good one. Don't beat them up on prices, and don't share their contact information with too many other realtors. The easiest way to get a great contractor to become a good contractor is to give his number to too many other real estate professionals.
And so here's the thing. All of us are salespeople, and salespeople tend to like to tell people about things they like.
Yes.
What Jeff just said right there is huge. So my brother, who owns a construction company, it's high-end stuff. So he doesn't do any of our punch out stuff, but he was giving like the name of this. There was this contractor. He gave his name out to so many people, and all of a sudden his prices went up and his quality went down. And he was just like, never going to do that again.
That's exactly what happens. The other thing on the flip side of that is, I know you're trying to earn your client's business, but don't earn your client's business by beating up your contractor too much, because that's another way to get them to start flaking. They're going to subcontract that out to other contractors that don't do as well of work as they do. And then you're going to be in another painful position. So, and I've been there. I've been in that place where I'm like, can you do it for 10% cheaper? Can you do it for, and it's just, you're constantly doing that. And then your contractor who loved you because you brought them like a lot of business no longer loves you because you're constantly beating them up on price, right? Make sure that your relationship with your contractor is strong so that you can have honest conversations. Because I've gotten to a place, I have 3 different contractors that I work with. They all know that I give all 3 of their names to almost every client that I work with, so that my clients kind of feel like they have a place to choose, if you will. But I've gotten to a place where most of my contractors are willing to get paid at closing because of the relationship that we have. But that takes time, but you also have to cover your bases when you do that. That's why we need a whole episode on contractors, because there's a lot of things that you can do to win for your clients, to win for your contractors, to win for yourself. But there's also a lot of ways that you can hurt yourself, hurt your contractor, hurt your client, and mess things up.
Absolutely. All right. So next question, LVP, which is luxury vinyl plank, hardwood floor, tile. What should we do with that? So I've become a big fan of LVP, and I just was at a house of a friend who sorry, I've got all these cashews sitting here and I just took a bite right before I started talking. And so she was talking about replacing her wood floors because she had those like 2.25 inch like old wood planks, but she has $1 million house, more than $1 million house. And so she was asking what she should do. And it was just really interesting because right as I went in, I took a look and I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Because another friend of mine in the neighborhood over there had LVP installed and it looked fabulous. Like, I mean, I probably would have rather that than the smaller wood floors, right? It just looks so much better. And so I was not a fan of LVP for higher end properties until I just saw that. And that was just actually a couple of weeks ago. And I just had a couple friends' houses. And so, yeah, LVP is something to really, really take a look at and know that until you get to high end properties, even in the step up, not first time home buyer, but like step up properties, you're seeing LVP can be a good replacement for wood, which that's a new revelation for me because I've liked LVP, but now I'm starting to like LVP on higher level properties.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's great. Big fan of it. So nothing more real to say there.
Next, carpet. So should you steam clean or should you replace? If there's a stain in it, you got to replace it.
Yes. Thank you. I was like, please say replace.
Oh, now every once in a while, I mean, heck, I was at a friend's house who we were just hanging out and they said, hey, I'm thinking about selling. You mind walking through? And I was like, yeah, sure. Let's do it. We walked through and her carpets looked incredible. And they had kids, all the other stuff. And like the carpets looked incredible. And apparently they were there and the pad was good too. So that's the other piece too. And so you didn't step down and feel subfloor, but those carpets have been in for 15 years, 20 years, something like that. And so I was like, got to replace it. And then I looked and I'm like, man, these are actually really good. And so a couple of things. If you ever step down and feel subfloor, that's really bad. So the difference is you can get away with a 6-pound pad, but you probably want an 8-pound pad for your carpet. The second thing is if you do carpet, you don't want to go lowest level. Like if you look down, you need to pull the fibers away to be able to see the bottom, right? So that's where a very mid-level carpet is very good. You don't want to go high end, but you definitely don't want to be able to see the bottom unless you really pull the fibers apart. So that's the other piece there. Now, should you do carpet in other places? I would say if you're selling a property, depending on the neighborhood, if it's first-time home buyer or lower, bedrooms are fine for carpet. Even basement is fine for carpet, but LVP I think is better and it's only a little bit more expensive. If you're keeping a property as a rental, always go LVP because you want less maintenance. You're going to replace your carpet every year, 2 years, 3 years. Your LVP will last 10 years, maybe longer. It's a no-brainer. You're going to save money over time. All right. I think we're over time. I've got a handful of other things. We'll do a part 2 here before long. And maybe we can even do like a walkthrough of a property or something like that and be very, very detailed for those that are listening and not watching.
Yes. We also do cause sometimes you have to prioritize, right? Because you don't have the money to do everything. So you got to prioritize. So maybe part 2, we can talk about how we prioritize, but maybe that also for a walkthrough. So, but great stuff. Hey friends, wherever you're listening to the podcast here, whether it be iTunes, Spotify, you know where you're at. If you could go give us an honest review, give us a 1-star, 3-star, 5-star. We're not as concerned with what star you give us as we are with the review. In the comments, let us know the topics that you would love us to cover, maybe people that you'd like us to have on or questions that you have. We'd love to address those. Anything we can do to help you level up, that's what we're here for. We want to make you uncommon, and we want to be challenged to be uncommon ourselves. So give us those reviews, much appreciated. Other than that, that's all we got for today. Feel free to reach out to myself at Jeff Safewright on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook at Jeff Safewright. Find me in the Facebook group on Uncommon Real Estate. You can find Chris there as well. Give me a call. Send me a text, 703-899-7270. Would love to just chat with you, figure out how we can help you level up. And also just chat about the opportunities that we do have here in EXP. We got a good grasp on everything that EXP has to offer. And so we're excited to let the world know about that. But again, that's it for this week. We hope you enjoyed it. Crush it. Continue leveling up. We'll see you soon. Take care. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Uncommon Real Estate. Subscribe to the podcast to stay up to date with the latest mastermind conversations from Chris, Jeff, and other uncommon real estate industry leaders. If you love this podcast, please write us a review. And to fast track your real estate career, go to chriscraddock.com.